Welcome back, and I have the pleasure of now being joined by Professor Thomas Schulthess, who is not only professor but also the director of CSCS and the person who originally came up with the entire concept of PASC. So Thomas, it's great to have you here, and I know that the concept of PASC is very dear to you, the whole idea of investing in software and knowledge to get more value out of hardware. Could you tell me a little bit more about the background and how this led to the conference?
Well, the thing that I started in the very beginning of my tenure, when I came here and was put in charge of developing the high-performance computing and networking initiative, I was given the opportunity to create a networking part, which originally was thought to be a network of computers, but since we were going to build a petascale computer at the time, it made no sense to invest in a network of computers. And so I proposed, why don't we create a network of application developers and create competence in HPC at universities? And the VP for research at the time, Peter Chen, said, great idea, go for it. And so that's how it started.
And I know it's easy to take for granted now, but I remember in the early days, PASC was quite unique, right? That you pioneered the whole idea of bringing the science and scientific review of mini-symposia and presentations into it.
Well, whether we pioneered it, so we definitely followed through with creating a program that invests in application development and links up to the supercomputing center and to the systems we develop, which is fundamentally part of developing a research infrastructure. And then we created the conference because I wanted to meet the PIs regularly, not in a review setting, but in a more scientific exchange setting. That's why we created the conference.
And to me, that's the unique part, right? We have all these vendors on board, but we don't have a show floor. That the vendors are here talking science all the time, how we should solve the computational problems. And I think that's unique with PASC.
Yes, we can take credit for it, or maybe some of the vendors also, like NVIDIA, is exemplary, is here with a lot of very competent dev tech and people and engaging with us in a really technical discourse. So I agree it's completely different from SC or ISC, but I think it does need both sides. It needs the scientists and it needs the vendors to come equipped with the right people, and that seems to be happening.
So if we look a little bit retrospectively on this, has this worked? Has it improved the way people use computers in Switzerland and abroad?
Yeah, I do think so. I think we have several areas, be it in earth sciences, of course the collaborations we have with the climate and the weather, but also we have astrophysics. We have the discussions going on with SKA, a number of other research infrastructures that somehow all started at PASC. So I think it has worked.
And I know I've seen myself at CSCS. It's very impressive, the fraction of users that have moved to GPUs at Pitt-Stein, right? I don't think I've seen such a high fraction anywhere else. But I guess you're also preparing to take the next step with your next Alp supercomputing coming online. And that's going to be both even more powerful, but possibly also even more of a challenge to those of us who are applications.
I think the future is bright. I really believe that. I think given that we know, together with the community in Switzerland, now we know how to do HPC and address all these architectural problems on the computing side. Now we can open to the next frontier, which I believe is scientific workflows and including non-trivial interactions with scientific data and other facilities that we have, for example, in Switzerland at Paul Scherrer Institute, the synchrotron and the Swiss free electron laser, SwissFEL, etc. There are huge opportunities that we will be somehow going into with PASC. How? Don't ask me now. We will have to work this out together.
But that's also the challenge, right? Because being a scientist myself and part a code owner, having this proverbial carrot is important. But if it's 100 meters in front of you, it's too far. You're not going to run. But if you see the carrot a meter or two in front of you, then it becomes a challenge that we want to go after. Yeah. So I guess the challenge is you're good at running ahead of us, but you can't run too far ahead.
I know, and I also think actually the carrot is much closer than you think. It is really with applications, say, because you're in molecular biophysics, I see applications that do molecular mechanics, molecular dynamics, classical, that need to be properly interacting with quantum mechanical applications, or QM/MM. On the QM side, we need to go beyond the traditional single particle approaches, because we're looking at things happening at timescales where not only do the force fields break, but also all the canonical electronic structure methods, and we have to go a step further. We also have to face things like, cryo-EM is an area that becomes just part of the analysis in, experimental analysis along with light sources or free electron lasers. So we somehow need to take a holistic approach to all the different software components that are necessary in the workflow. And I can repeat this in other domains as well. And so the integration of software, and it has to be open source software, that is going to be the next, across different fields. That's the frontier we have to go into.
And I know that a theme you've talked a lot about is the whole move towards data-focused science, right? And the next generation infrastructure being able to handle huge amounts of diverse data, in particular related to machine learning.
Yes. So we need to pull all the registers on the computational science side, on the statistical machine learning, which has made huge advances now with this AI, etc. We need to pull all the registers to really make proper use of the information that we are dealing with in this whole scientific process, to be able to tackle the data problems, because without that, the data problems will just be unmanageable.
So I know that from history, you're good at seeing the things that many of the rest of us don't see. If you look a year or two ahead, both in PASC and infrastructure, what do you think are the greatest changes that we might not be aware of?
We might not?
That the rest of us might not really be aware of, that we will have to adapt to over a year or two?
Well, I hope actually everybody is going to be aware that the greatest change is, I think, in PASC, and we're pushing in those directions with this Exclaim project at ETH and with the collaborations with ECMWF and our own weather service, is really to try to tackle big data problems. Independent, so separately of going into machine learning and AI, that you can take for granted. That's a huge opportunity we have just in Switzerland. But independent of that, tackle big data problems where you have a defined velocity, that's not zero, defined velocity, you have challenging volumes, you have challenging variety and veracity. And once we learn how to deal with that, then disseminate all this knowledge into all other areas. And the challenge may be that the other areas need to understand what's the new stuff that's coming. And we will have to work with other communities, life science, also to really understand how to do this.
So what's your vision for PASC then? Should we stay roughly where we are in terms of size and concepts, or anything we should consider changing?
I think the conference is a great success. Don't change a success. Maybe evolve it, and what I would like to see happening is more interactions between the domains. Like this morning we had this talk and interview, and you could see there is a lot of knowledge on solving CFD problems in engineering. There is a lot of knowledge solving CFD problems in astrophysics. One is working with hard boundaries, the other one with open boundaries. these two communities need to talk to each other more.
Yeah.
And in a constructive way, not talk negative about each other, but in a constructive way, and then we make a leap. And I would like to see many more of these inter-community interactions.
I think that sounds like a great future promise. Again, Thomas, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for telling me more about your vision. And thank you.
Thank you for a great conference, organizing all this.